cool. Saoirse, would you mind letting anybody else in if they pop up? I think you heard me. Okay, well, welcome everybody to our presentation. We are going to go over feeder watching and all of our tips and tricks. I am Libby Buck, and I am with the Engelbourg Nature Foundation. I'm the Conservation Science and Land Steward here, and I am an all-around ecologist. But if I'm going to focus on one thing, I really like birds. And I like to research them. And I also have my master banding permit and run a station out here and everything. And then Seth, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure.
There you go. Good job.
Yeah. So my name is Seth Engelbourg. I also work at the Engelbourg Nature Foundation as the naturalist educator and program manager. I run most of the education programs, including the birding field trips, and have been working there for 9 years now. Like Libby, I'm also a general ecologist, but I studied birds when I was younger and grew an affinity for birds. So I love to talk about birds. So if you want to get the presentation started now, Libby, that'd be great.
Let me just share my screen. As soon as I can reach the button. There it is. Can you all see that? Okay, good. Yeah, so we are going to go over the backyard feeder birding workshop, and it's our tips, tricks, and we're going to talk about the Cornell Labs FeederWatch Fund and how you can contribute to their data as well. And we already did our little introduction, so I'll go to the next. Oops, there we go. Sorry. So our overview is we're going to go over what is feeder watching. We're also going to go over how to choose the right feeders and the right food to attract the right birds. We'll go over some of the tools to make you a better birder, to help with ID maybe, but also just to really capture the birds that are coming to your feeders. And then we're going to go over the Project FeederWatch. And like I said in the beginning, we're going to do a little bit more of a question and answer, and we want you guys to interact with us as well. So what is feeder watching? Bird feeding watching is just the ability of putting a bird feeder out and filling it up and then being able to just watch the birds right in your own backyard. It's great for all ages and all abilities. That's what I personally love about it, is you could have some crazy excitement going on right in your backyard and you didn't have to do anything. You can just watch from your window. It's a very relaxing way to connect with nature. You can do it anytime you want. You can be really focused on it, looking out your window, or you could be washing your dishes while watching out your window. And like I said, any fun or exciting new bird visitors could show up at any moment. And it's also very much a low cost because you're really only supplying bird seed and then maybe a pair of binoculars here and there, but you really only need just bird seed to kind of attract them in. So the general bird feeders, there's the hopper feeders, which are good for cardinals, blue jays, and larger birds. So that's this one over here. Can you guys see my cursor? I'm doing that? Okay. And then there's the tube feeders that are great for small songbirds like chickadees and finches. We usually put black sunflower seeds in there. That typically is a really great base seed to give your birds. A lot of species really enjoy the sunflower seeds. And then if you want to get more into woodpeckers or nuthatches, the suet feeder. Suet is like a compact, lard-esque mixture of, it could have mealworms in it, could have seed, and the woodpeckers just really love to go at it and like peck away. And it has a really great high density for them, especially if they're trying to build up weight for the winter. And then also another one is the platform feeders, which are great for especially like ground birds to just come up and graze all over whatever's going on at the platform. There is a risk here, especially with the deer, and also squirrels might attribute to there. So you definitely have to place it in the right spot of your yard. And then there's the species specific bird feeders. There's the goldfinch, or finches in general, and siskins. They really like the Niger seed, and you can get it in a sock or in a different, like a smaller tube feeder with that. It has the ability. Niger seed is really small and thin, and they just really enjoy it. They also like, if you have sunflowers in your garden, they really like to go after the sunflowers or thistles. And then for fun, there's like the peanut feeders, and the blue jays really enjoy that, nuthatches, woodpeckers. You can get them in a ring like this, or they have other different types of shapes. And then of course there's the hummingbird feeders, which you just put the sugar water in it. You can look, the red dye stuff isn't really the best for them. There is perfectly great recipes online that are much safer and easier to take care of the hummingbirds. And we don't get high numbers of hummingbirds out here, but we do get them. And they're usually the ruby-throated. And then the oriole feeders. And orioles really love jam or straw or oranges or any kind of fruit. And they'll just come in and they'll eat it all. I also know that the catbirds enjoy the oriole feeders as well. And then there's the interactive bird feeders that they can come even closer to your window. So I have one of these. Actually, the bird feeder just suction cups onto your window, and my dog really enjoys watching it. The cardinals will come right up and like eat right from there, and it's really great for kids or people with limited mobility because they're right there in your window. And then there's this also a different kind of interactive bird feeder that they actually could come in. So this is actually inside your house if you want to go that far. And then and they keep coming out with newer ones, these camera feeders. We have a bird buddy here at the office. And what it does is the bird will land here, and then it will take a photo and it will try to ID it for you. I will say it's more of a tool because there's a lot of times when our bird feeder is wrong. And it really wants to turn one of our song sparrows into a pine siskin or something else. So, use your discretion when you're using those. But they are fun, and we have like really hilarious photos. We also had a deer come up one time, and I tried to ID it as a squirrel, but it looks like, I don't know, like a Muppet because its nose went right over it and everything. But speaking of the other animals that could come to your feeder here, so deer for sure, but we always get questions about squirrels. And a good rule of thumb is the 5-7-9 rule, and the feeder should be 5 feet off the ground, 7 feet away from any structure, including trees, and nothing less than 9 feet hanging above it. And you can get, these things are called baffles. Some people put them below or over top of it as well. But then there's also the squirrel proof feeders that are weight sensitive. So what happens is if the squirrel is too heavy, they will hang on to it and it will close this down so they're not able to get the seed anymore. They also have a spinning one too that they have these. It's kind of funny. But the weight of the squirrel and how they launch to it kind of like spins them off of your feeder. But there's also other ways you can do it. There's a lot of the squirrels really don't like safflower. It's too bitter. They really don't like that type of seed. The Niger seed that I mentioned that goldfinches really like, it's too small, so the squirrels really don't prefer to eat it at all. And then also they make some spicy seeds, so it's like a light coating of hot pepper on the seed. And the idea is that birds, they have like very limited taste buds, so they don't really taste the spicy seed, and the squirrels will, and hopefully they will deter from it and not want to eat any more of the bird seed. I heard some people that does work for them out here. And then But yeah, so if you have any other questions about squirrels or prevention, we'd love to answer those ones as well.
All right. So thanks, Libby.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to talk about what some options are if you want to attract more birds to your yard or to somewhere else if you don't want to manage the bird feeders, because it does require effort to fill them every day and clean them out and take care of them. But there are natural ways or there are landscaping ways to get more birds to your yard without feeders. Some of those could include prioritizing native landscaping at your house. So replacing non-native and especially invasive plants with native species, especially species that bloom throughout the whole year and have different colors and different types of berries on them, especially berries that persist long into the winter. That's going to allow an additional food source for birds to come in. Also, if you have dense landscaping, it's going to provide shelter for the birds so that, grass and lawns are nice, but if it's all open, there's no real hiding places. So having some variety and diversity in your landscape could attract more birds. There's also the option to include bird baths. And bird baths do a couple things. The one thing they do is they provide birds an ability to drink water and get water, and this is especially important in the winter. If you use a heated one when other water is frozen, it's a way to get birds into your yard. But also, birds do take baths in your bird bath, or a lot of birds are naturally curious and they'll just flap around in there for enjoyment, especially on a hot day. And the last thing you can do is to uh, rethink your use of landscape chemicals like herbicides, because, or I would say pesticides too, because if you have more bugs and more insects in your yard, those are the really good food sources for the birds, and that's what they're going to eat. So you're going to attract more birds that way. You can go on. And while you're out birding, or even if you're just in your backyard birding, there's some helpful tools that can make this a much more pleasant experience. So a lot of people have tried to get into this hobby, and I think they felt stuck because they don't really know where to start. That's why we're offering this presentation and the other educational programs we do. But really, birding, like to demystify it for a second, it's not that complicated. You really don't need any tools at all. But if you want to make it a little bit easier, there are a few helpful tools. Those are optics. The most simple one is binoculars, so that you can look through that and see the birds closer and maybe be able to see the size, shape, color, and what the birds are doing. Also in the middle, this thing is called a spotting scope, which unlike a binocular, it just uses one eye, just one long tube, but it has a lot better magnification than a binocular. Binoculars are in the 7 to 10 magnification range. Spotting scopes are usually in the 20 to 60. So if you're trying to look at something far away, that really helps. And then a camera to take photographs. That's a tool I really don't ever use. Um, but I know a lot of people, they want to be able to see that bird for more than just the split second or a short amount of time that it gives you. Even at feeders, songbirds especially, they'll fly away quite fast. So if you get a photograph of that bird, you can always zoom in on it later on your computer and see more. And then other things are field guides. We're going to talk about physical birds, physical books for a second. Here are the three most common books that we'd recommend: the Sibley's Guide, the Peterson's Guide, and the Stokes Guide. They're all a little bit different in how they approach the identification of birds. Some of them use photographs, some of them use illustrated illustrations. So you kind of have to see what works for you. Those are physical books. And then the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which is the organization that does the Project FeederWatch that we're going to talk about later, they've really made a name for themselves in the online help and app world. So there's some great apps that they put out, including Merlin ID, which is an app that you can take photographs of birds or record audio of birds, or just put in some basic information about what you think you saw. There's kind of a checklist of questions. It says where was the bird, what was the size of the bird, what was the color of the bird, what was it doing, and it will spit out some suggestions of what it might have been. So that's a really helpful resource. They also have a huge library of photos and sound recordings and live bird cameras. And they're all about birds. They have courses where they can actually focus on a specific topic. So for instance, you could sign up for a shorebirds course, and with a ornithologist from Cornell, you actually do like an academic style class to learn all about that type of bird and how to identify them. And then there's also eBird, which is more a resource to track your birding checklists and contribute data to science rather than something that's going to help you figure out what birds you saw. But it can be helpful, especially if you're going to decide to take up this hobby and do it every day or every week or every year. It can be helpful for you to track what you saw in one time of the year to see if it's different in another time of the year or it's the same in the next year. So it can kind of be helpful in that way. Next slide. And now we're going to talk about what the Project FeederWatch is. So Libby talked about kind of watching birds at your feeder at your own leisure, but Project FeederWatch is actually a specific program that's put out by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I think it's like 30 years old at this point, or at least 20 plus years old. And it runs every year from November 1st to April 30th. And what it asks essentially volunteers in the community to do, which could be us, it could be you, it could be all of us together, is to just go to your bird feeders, count or observe all the birds that you see there, count them up, and report them for 2 days in a row. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't have to put special bird food out. You don't have to video record it or photograph it. You just have to sit at your feeder for 2 days and submit your observations to FeederWatch. And this is a way where your backyard is actually going to make significant impacts for scientific research. This is a way that scientists can help understand how bird populations are doing, if they're trending up or down, if their ranges are changing, if they're being affected by climate change. And it might seem trivial to sit in my yard and record birds for 2 days, but it's not just you doing it. It's hundreds or thousands of people all across North America doing it across the same time period, and the data really adds up quickly. So next slide. And for more information on FeederWatch, you can go to their website that's there. They have a lot of great educational resources, and they show you how to submit the data. And there's plenty of like FAQs and how-to guides on what to do. So if you already have feeders at your house, or you think you might want to set up feeders, or you really like the idea of birding, but you don't want to go out and walk in the woods on a coldy winter day or take expensive trips to Central America, this could be a way to just really make a good impact and engage in birding at your own house, at your own leisure. Next slide. And I'll do the invitation first, but in terms of Project FeederWatch, we are actually going to be doing the Linda Loring Nature Foundation FeederWatch Days next week on Monday, April 14th, and Tuesday, April 15th. That will be between 9 and 11 a.m. each day. So if any of you on this Zoom today want to try what it's like to be involved with FeederWatch without necessarily creating your own account or signing up for your own yard, you can come to the Linda Loring Nature Foundation porch next week. We're going to have coffee and snacks and It looks like the rain will have stopped, so it'll be a nice casual morning. You can drop in at your leisure. If you can't come the whole time, that's fine. You can come one day, you can come both days, you can come part of the day. It's no big deal. You don't need any experience. You don't need any equipment. We'll provide everything for you, and we'll also be there as the birders and scientists to kind of help you with the ID. So that could be a really fun opportunity next week. We have some people signed up already, but if you're interested in signing up, you can go to our website, which is llnf.org, and check that out on our events page. And then just some tips generally about what it takes to really have a good, relaxing, but also successful time watching birds at feeders. You need to be patient. It really does take a lot of time to build bird-friendly yards. You can't just put up new feeders and expect to get mega rarities the next day. Even at Linda Loring, where we've had feeders there for a long time, we just this past week changed out some of our feeders to new feeders and updated some of our seed sources and tried to add some new things to the mix. And it doesn't seem like the birds are that excited about it yet. So it does take time, and if you make changes, it will take time for the birds to kind of to respond. But they will respond, and they will find your feeder, and they will visit. You also want to practice good cleanliness, cleaning the feeders and any baths if you have. Just making sure to keep the birds healthy, and it's good to learn one bird at a time. So you could start to see this species down here a lot, this mourning dove. That might be a bird that shows up to your feeders every day, and you can learn that species. And then once you're confident of that species, you can move on to the next species, like a cardinal or a blue jay, and kind of just work slowly and progressively. Also, if you really are excited about any of the things that we've said today, in addition to the feeder watch days and this presentation, we're going to be resuming our weekly birding field trips at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation. Those happen every Wednesday, at least until October, and then they'll probably be a little bit more sporadic in the winter. We'll also be having other special events this year, like big sits and van birding and maybe some other things that we haven't planned yet. But we offer all these events and programs free to the public. So if you want more experience and a little bit opportunity to learn from us as you begin your birding journey, check us out at Linda Loring. And the last thing is have fun. You don't have to be an expert. You won't be an expert in the first day if you are just starting this. Even 10 years in, really, since I started really getting interested in birds, I don't know every bird, and there's still birds that I see and get confused by. So just have fun and know that the resources like the apps and the field guides are there for you. So next slide. And with that, I'll bring Libby back into the frame here too. And if you have any questions for us about any of the details we went over in this backyard bird feeder workshop today, feel free to raise your hands and unmute and ask questions. We're happy to answer them. And just before we do that, Libby mentioned that sometimes we get crazy pictures on our bird buddy. This is a blue jay that was caught right at the wrong time on the bird buddy. So those camera feeders are really fun. So thank you guys all so much. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and let us know. Brooke, go ahead.
Is there any truth to the fact that we shouldn't have bird feeders in the summer? Is there I'd read somewhere like that you shouldn't make the birds dependent. Is that true, or I just love them so much?
I'm going to answer that question, and then Libby can join into in maybe a complex way, but the reality is birds don't need food from feeders at all. We put bird feeders out not to benefit birds, but to benefit ourselves. So as long as we're doing it in an ethical way, and everything is clean, and we're not causing other impacts to the environment, I think it's fine. A lot of what you see too about take your bird feeders down in the summer or take your bird feeders down in the winter comes from places off island. If you live in a place off island with bears,
Yeah.
definitely take your bird feeders down in the summer.
Yeah.
But luckily, we don't have to deal with that on Nantucket.
Yeah, I lived in Vermont for 12 years. It was definitely a thing. I just didn't know whether there was any reason not to do it for the health of the birds. So I have 2 feeders. I'm looking at them right now. It's insane, the bird traffic that I get. I get such joy.
Oh,
And I have I've seen 4 pairs of cardinals simultaneously, because between my house, there's a big row of privet, and the feeders are between the privet and the house. So it's just a constant. There's probably 18 birds right now.
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing is great.
Working.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to hog the time.
Oh, no, you're fine. Lynn, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So I'm new to birding. I did the
Mhm.
bird count at the end of last year, and I just put up 2 feeders. And it's
Mhm.
interesting because I live near Brooke. That's interesting what she said about the cardinals. So we always had cardinals in our yard. And now they come, but they don't feed at all. And I really did put them out because they're here like constantly. So now I'm getting cowbirds that I've never had, grackles, and red-winged blackbirds from everywhere. It's so interesting. But is there anything I could do to bring the cardinals back in? Because they in the morning, they're out there and they see me filling the feeders. And then
Mhm.
they get skittish with the other birds. I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah. What kind of seed mix are you using right now? Does it have mostly sunflowers in it, or does it have like corn?
It's got sunflower in it. It's got everything in it. I went to Marine and got
Mhm.
it. It's like Coles or something. Is that the name? I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a mix. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes with the mixes, you want to stay away from any that has like the corn or
Okay.
the I don't know,
Milo
the
or milk.
millet.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason that really
Okay.
attracts the blackbirds, like the cowbirds you were talking about and the grackles.
Oh, okay.
They zero in on that type of stuff. But if you offer the sunflower seeds or fruit, like there's mixes with like dry fruit and like little nuts and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
That seems to do a lot better with attracting more and different birds. And then also, if you don't have a bird bath, that might help to bring them in as
Okay.
well.
Okay. And the other question I had, because you talked about plants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been doing like a lot of wildflowers, and actually these bird feeders now will be like in the vicinity of like where my wildflower garden is. But I'm just wondering, was there anything specific that you would recommend, or is it just native things, native plants?
Yeah, it would sort of depend on kind of what your goals are for the birds you're trying to attract and also for the garden in general. Um, just to get back to I'll come back to this in a second, but just to answer the cardinal question as well.
Yeah.
Cardinals love safflower seed. That's the one that Libby mentioned that was too bitter for the squirrels. They love that for some reason.
Yeah.
You can try to have one feeder that just specifically has safflower. And
Okay.
then the reality is that as much as we try to control which birds are going to be on our feeders,
Yeah. Right.
when you put the feeders out, you don't necessarily get to pick the type of restaurant it's going to be. It just is a buffet.
Yeah.
One time I got a pretty assertive phone call from a gentleman asking why he had Cooper's hawks at his feeder and how to
Oh,
get
cool.
rid of them. And I was like, well,
Oh.
if you feed the birds, you feed all the birds, even the predator birds. So it might not be what you intended, but sometimes you just have to be willing to accept that you know, all birds are special, and it's okay to go into it hoping to attract cardinals, but appreciate the other birds as well. In terms of the native plants, the Nantucket Biodiversity Initiative, several years back now, produced a native plant brochure that we have in physical print, or it's on the website. And there's a lot of great tips in there about what to plant for what purposes. It's not really specifically about birds, but it will tell you, like, is this good in a dry spot? Is this good in a sandy spot? Is what grasses, what vines, what shrubs, etc. So as long as it's something native, and hopefully flowering or fruiting plants, because that's really, birds are either coming to nectar if they're hummingbirds, or coming to fruit if they're songbirds, or something that's going to attract a lot of insects. That's what we're looking for. But yeah, and I would just say diversity is good. Don't plant all of one thing, as much as you might want a whole row of blueberries. If you plant just blueberries, it's only going to attract a limited amount of insects and a limited amount of birds, versus if you plant 10 different species, it will attract more.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn, just so you know, I use the Cardinal blend from Island Lumber. And
from where? Island Lumber?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have so many cardinals, so.
They're all going to your yard. Okay, now I know where they are.
Must be. That's it.
Also, maybe if you ask nicely, Brooke would invite you over, and you guys can bird watch the feeders together.
I mean, she's right around the corner from me, so.
That's so funny.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
Other questions? Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
I understand hummingbirds are not very common on Nantucket, but I've had really good luck with them in Pennsylvania, where I've come from. Any ideas on, other than just getting a nice feeder out for them?
The flowers, like bright red flowers, they're really attracted to those. But yeah, we just don't get that many. But any kind of like flower that opens, especially too, that they can just get the nectar out of, they'll really like that. But red or pink is key for the hummingbirds.
Yeah, hummingbirds, they thrive in more wooded environments, honestly. So they're considered locally scarce here. And if you look at all the places that they are, especially in the places that people have feeders, they're usually in people's backyards that are wooded. So not to kind of like let you down, but if you have a big open yard with no trees, it might not even be worth trying. But if you have a nice wooded area that you can put feeders in, you're much more likely to get hummingbirds there.
Okay. We've had very good luck with cardinals with the safflower seed. We have one feeder that is just safflower, and the cardinals love it. We've had 3, I guess, at one time on them.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, and hopefully you learned something about backyard bird feeders and how to put them up, and how to watch them, and how to observe birds better. And again, if you are free on Monday or Tuesday of next week, please go on our website and register for the FeederWatch and join us there. It'll be a really fun, casual, relaxing time. And if not, we hope to see you at a different birding program we do later this summer.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you,
everybody.
Thanks. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.